Eagles. Eagles.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome into a Football Friday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. Getting ready to wrap up, Johnny Mac, the regular season. If you can believe that, the end of the regular season is upon us. That game will start on Friday, or on Sunday, excuse me. It's a Football Friday. The game will start Sunday at 1 p.m. at Lincoln Financial Field. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Football Friday?
Yeah, trying to get through it. Not the most juice-worthy week of the NFL season.
No.
But it's a good thing from the perspective of you're good enough to do where you want to do, and you're good enough to sit players. So that's actually a good thing.
Yeah.
And we'll have playoff football to talk about next week, which will bring a lot of juice. So just got to get through it. Necessary evil.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the main thing I'm watching this weekend is obviously how it plays out, just to see who the Eagles face. It's only between the Commanders and the Packers. And then that Vikings-Lions game, John, is going to be a great one too.
Yeah. NFL script writers got it right, man.
Yeah, they did.
14-2 teams battling in the last game of the season.
How many times has that happened in NFL?
Never.
14-2, yeah.
Well, they just started playing 17, but even if you were thinking about 13-2,
yeah,
never. I mean, it's unbelievable, and the fact that you brought up a couple times, the loser of that game is going to be crestfallen to win 14 games. I think they're the number 5 seed, and I do think there is something to that, and maybe. From the Eagles' perspective, as the number 2 seed, you get one of those guys knocked off early, which would be the best case scenario. And all of a sudden, if it's the number 1 seed getting knocked off early, the NFC Championship game would be in Philadelphia. So, that's the goal. That's why the Eagles wanted the number 1 seed. That's how they made the Super Bowl in 2017, how they made the Super Bowl in 2022. Everything came through Philadelphia. Could still happen in a different way, but somebody would have to obviously get knocked off early.
Yeah, so we'll see how it all plays out. Should be a great game. Izzy says, "Who gets the 1 if they tie?" I do not know. I feel like it would be the Lions because they have the edge right now, but when they're both 14-2.
Yeah, that's a good question. I should have that somewhere. I got to see. They generally send out the playoff scenarios. I'll look for it, but I don't expect to see a tie, but I'll definitely look.
I don't either. You don't see many ties in the NFL, but it's always fun to think about. I want to welcome everybody in this morning on a Football Friday. What's up, Flex, Izzy, Hardcore, Crowley, Twiz the Jigga, Frank Dolo, Sabrina White. Good morning to everybody. Quan Pugh, Brian Fleming, Philly Don. Appreciate all of you guys. Don't forget to hit that like button this morning for us. First 10, 15 minutes of the show are the best time to hit the like. It's the most important time as you signal to YouTube to share us out to a bunch of other people. So go ahead and hit that like button for us, and we'll break down the game today. I'll also do a Q&A in hour number 2. We'll take some questions, and I'll get some answers from Johnny Mac. If you guys have playoff questions or Week 18 questions, anybody have them? I don't think so.
The Lions do win with a tie. So
okay.
The Lions will have number 1 seed with a tie. So there you go.
Yeah, good stuff there. We'll see. That should be a great game, man. Sunday night. Looking forward to watching that game. John, let's talk about this Eagles game a little bit. Oh, well, first I want to talk about the Pro Bowl. I know we mentioned it yesterday on the show, but 6 people, you heard from some of those players yesterday. Pretty cool listening to Zach Bond, who said he laughed basically at the incentive in his contract.
That was the best part of the day.
Yeah.
Zach Bond signed his contract and laughed at the Pro Bowl. He signed a 1-year, $1.6 million deal. A lot of people reported it's $3.5 million. It's $3.5 million with incentives,
right?
And I'm sure he's made $3.5 million because he's hit every incentive, including the Pro Bowl. And he kind of laughed at it. He said when he first signed his contract, it's like, why is this even in there? which tells you where this was been. I always said it's the best story of the season.
Right.
There's been higher profile stories, obviously. Saquon, Big Fangio. They signed this guy to be a backup edge rusher and a special teams player. And if they thought, the Pro Bowl incentive was going to be hit, probably as a special teamer, because they do take one special teamer. Yeah, amazing story in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation. I don't think he's going to win it because people get obsessed with sacks, and that tends to be, I always say, MVP is a quarterback award. Sorry, just is. Defensive Player of the Year tends to be a sack award. Occasionally, you can go back to the Stephon Gilmore year. You got to have a lot of interceptions. You got to have a lot of splashy plays. And Zach has had plenty of splashy plays, but, if you look at TJ Watt, who's probably going to win it, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's deserved.
Still an incredible story, John. I mean,
Yeah.
the guy laughed at a Pro Bowl incentive. Meanwhile, he could be an All-Pro, could be a Defensive Player of the Year. Probably not, but is in that conversation, which shows you how amazing of a story it is. So pretty cool stuff. Jalen Carter also had some. I thought that was cool listening to him talk about the Pro Bowl and what it means. See, this is where I don't like where people say the Pro Bowl doesn't matter. It clearly matters to the players, man. That they want to be selected.
It matters. The honor matters.
All across the league, though, John. There was a dude in Baltimore. I forget who it was. I watched the clip from the Baltimore social media team, and he was all jacked up for his first Pro Bowl. I think it was Zay Flowers, and I'm like, players clearly care about this stuff.
Oh yeah. Well, it's funny you bring up Baltimore because I just watched the Derrick Henry clip. And he couldn't have been.
He didn't care.
He couldn't have been more nonplussed.
Oh man,
it's almost like Eric DeCosta told him. It's almost like, yeah, what did you expect, dude? So obviously, if you've done it a bunch of times, like Derrick Henry, it lessens. But first timer, as you mentioned with Zay Flowers, first timer Zach Bond, first timer Jalen Carter, first timer Cam Jurgens. All these guys are very excited. Yeah, it's very meaningful. And there's some flaws in it. Like they don't. I mean, one of my biggest flaws is that one of my biggest complaints about it is they don't pick the players the way the game is played, and to a certain degree, even all pro, which. I've weaseled myself into getting an alternate vote in the All Pro
Nice.
For years, I've lobbied Rob Motti, who runs.
You should have a vote. I think you're a great person to have a vote for that.
And I am going to get most likely. I'm the 51st guy, so most likely, somebody's not going to put it in on time. So most likely, it's going to count. But either way, I only bring that up to the point that. They don't pick the guys like the way they play. Like to me, Cooper DeJean should be in the Pro Bowl, but they don't pick a slot corner.
Right, they just pick three corners.
He was an alternate as a punt returner. He wasn't even an alternate as a cornerback because he's a slot cornerback, and they don't pick slot cornerbacks. If you look at the tackle spreads, it's short by lot is the biggest snub. They don't pick right tackle, left tackle. They just pick three tackles.
Right.
Which
I still think
I should have made it anyway. Yeah. But the NFC is so deep at tackle that reputation comes into it. Lane, you think about the guys who made it: Lane Johnson, Penei Sewell, Tristan Wirfs. They've all been consistent. So it's tough to break through at certain positions, but it's very meaningful. Yeah, and also it's tied to contracts, as we mentioned with Zach Bond. Guys get big chunk of change for Pro Bowl incentives, so that factors into it as well. So it's very meaningful to NFL players. Never think it isn't, but it be guys like Derrick Henry. Yeah, okay. they might get it a little bit bored with it. But when you do see the first timers, they're generally really, really excited.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's pretty cool to see some of that. So congrats to the 6 Eagles who got selected to the Pro Bowl. And then there's a couple alternates. Well, I think there was 4 alternates, right? It was AJ, it was Quinion, it was Josh Sweat, and Jordan Mailata. So those are your 4 Pro Bowl alternates as well. So congrats to the 10 Eagles who were selected, the 6 who made the team, and the 4 alternates. Pretty good stuff for those guys. Johnny Mac, we got a Week 18 matchup, a Tanner McKee Drew Lock Bowl for Week 18. How does that make you feel inside, Johnny Mac?
Yeah, just as you would imagine. You know, I am excited to see Tanner McKee play, see what he can do with some more playing time. Certain
Probably
guys
won't look the same, John, without AJ Brown.
No,
and
I mean,
Sweat.
I wish, I wish people would understand that and grade on the curve. They probably won't. But on one hand, if he plays well, then the hype is really going to increase
Right.
because they'll say, well, he did it with Jahan Dotson and Johnny Wilson and Anaya Smith against a terrible New York Giants team. But if they win this game, it'd be impressive because they're not going to play anybody or try not to play anybody. And the Giants are probably going to win the game, so prepare yourself.
Well, it's a loss for the Eagles. Maybe it's not the right way to think about this, but is a loss for the Eagles a win for the Eagles? Because the Giants are going to lower their draft spot and potentially not get the quarterback they want or whoever.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to think about it, I don't advocate tanking in the NFL. I don't advocate.
Me neither. But the Eagles have already, in a way, they already waved the white flag on the game. I mean, not really, but you know what I mean. They've already signaled.
No, I don't think I meant from the Giants' perspective. The Eagles aren't tanking; they're just resting players for the playoffs. Right. I meant it from the Giants. A lot of people say the Giants should lose, and we're pissed off because they won last week, Giants fans. I don't think you have to tank in the NFL. Like in basketball, it's a more legitimate thing. I don't subscribe to it there either, but it's more legitimate because it's far easier to build up that way in the NBA. In the NFL, there's worst to first every year. Every year, there's worst to first. If you make good decisions in the off, that's the problem with the New York Giants and other bad organizations. They make bad decisions year after year after year after year. Multiple bad decisions, whether it's coaching, front office, players, evaluation, all of it, coaching. We were talking to some of the offensive line guys, and yesterday, and it came to we were talking about how many good tackles there are in the NFC, with Lane and Panay and Tristan Wirfs and Jordan. And there's 2 injured guys people don't realize. Christian Darrisaw would be in the Pro Bowl conversation. Andrew Thomas from the Giants would be in the Pro Bowl conversation, but he got hurt. And then we went down the Andrew Thomas path, and we're like, and one of the guys was like, he's so good, and he has such shitty coaching. That's the New York Giants, especially on the offensive line. So when you have a player that good, but hire some good coaches, teach these players. So there's so many things that can go wrong in the NFL. And the Giants have been at the forefront of that for a long time. But you saw Drew Lock. He's not a good quarterback. He beat the Eagles last year in Seattle. He had a big game last week. He's an NFL backup quarterback. Malik Neighbors is having a good year. And as organizations tank, players don't tank. So players will try to win the game, and the Eagles aren't going to play anybody, and you're going to see a bunch of backups. So I'm just saying, if you expect a win and you say the Giants are the Giants, you should win with your third string quarterback. Just be prepared.
John, let's talk about the matchups in this game for the Eagles. Who are we expecting to play out here? Offense? I mean, I think we're going Tanner McKee, Will Shipley, Dotson, Wilson, and Nia Smith. These are your receivers and running back. Tight end, E.J. Jenkins. Well, you don't think Dallas Goedert will get on the field?
No, really? I think Grant's going to have to play a little bit, unfortunately for him. EJ, they're down to 2 tight ends. They might have to do something next week, practice squad wise, to bring in some depth at that position because CJ Uzomah's out for the season with an injury. So they might have to do something, but Dallas should be back for the playoffs, but they're not going to push him back in this game. And so that means Grant, unfortunately, is going to have to play at least a little bit. They can get around it, not play as much 12 personnel, use an extra offensive lineman as a tight end, just play more receivers. You can play some 2 backs. You can do a lot of things to get around it. So they'll do all that as well, but Grant's going to have to play probably a little bit at least.
Yeah, we'll see what they do end up doing there. How about that offensive line, Johnny Mac? They're probably going to go in 5 replacements there. Fred, Trevor, Gates, Steen, and Driscoll. That would be the guess. Is that what it's going to look like?
Yeah, well, looked like Gates was getting some reps. Most of the reps at center yesterday in the individual drills. Driscoll was at right guard. Kennard was at right tackle. Steen was at left guard. Fred was at left tackle. So that's what I think is going to happen. And yeah, I mean, it's not Jordan, Landon, Cam, McKay, and Lane Johnson. But
is that group of offensive linemen, all right, is that group Fred, Trevor, Nick Gates, Tyler Steen, and Jack Driscoll?
Trevor.
Is that group better than any starting group in the NFL?
No.
No. I didn't know if I could go that far.
It's Brad. It's Brad, Tyler, Nick, Jack.
Okay.
Darren Kennard. That's how they lined up yesterday.
Okay, gotcha.
No guarantee Trevor will be the 6th man, maybe the extra guy, but
I'd like to see Keegan. Dank Bergdank says he wants to see him too. I would like to see him. I feel like
I'm sure
this is one of those games. I mean, yeah, we've seen Jack Driscoll play. I've seen Nick Gates play. I've seen Fred Johnson play. Let's see some Trevor Keegan, Johnny Mac.
Yeah, you can make that argument as a younger player. Obviously, he can't play center, so I mean that's what Nick is going to play. But you could argue you want to see Steen. You can argue Keegan over Driscoll. But the Eagles like Driscoll. Very versatile guy, can play every position.
He was gone for a little bit, wasn't he? Didn't we put him on the practice squad? He got claimed, and then he came, and then we kind of.
No, he signed with Miami in the offseason.
Oh, that's right.
As a free agent. Yeah, and then he got cut. They were trying to make him into a center, which.
Yeah, I don't know why. What do you think of that?
Well, Stoutland must have liked it because he's playing him at center now. So you might see some Jack Driscoll.
I will not be the naive person to think I know better than Jeff Stoutland, but interesting. I didn't expect to see.
When he got back. He never did it when he was here. When he got back, he's giving him a bunch of reps at center.
Yeah.
So he's trying to, the more you can do, the more you can stay around this league, and he can play every position now on the offensive line. So that makes him very valuable. But yeah, I mean, you can make you definitely want to see Steen. You definitely want to see Kennard. And somebody's got to play center. So you can do it either way. I don't know if you want Driscoll to play center a whole game where Nick's an actual center. He can play that and do it correctly. So, but I can understand Keegan over Driscoll, but they like Driscoll better right now.
Yeah, we'll see. Our man Frankie Dolo checks in. Frank Dolo, what's up, Frank? You can see he's got the Jets logo, so he's a Jets fan. He says Zander goes to show what outstanding coaching can accomplish. Enjoy the right guard. Frank, I don't feel bad for you, brother.
Yeah, by the way, the biggest snub, obviously, is Jordan Mailata, but you can make a strong case that Mekhi Becton, from the standpoint of they understand they have 6 alternates. He wasn't even an alternate, Mekhi Becton, which is insane. So he might have been the biggest snub overall to not even be an alternate. He's had a great season. He was emotional. If you saw any of the clips,
I didn't catch the full. I'm going to watch that tonight, today
because what he went through with the Jets. He's like, he's basically almost in tears from winning the NFC East, which in Philadelphia is like, give me the T-shirt and I'll throw it in the bottom of my locker.
Yeah, I think there's a lesson in that. Not a lesson, but it shows you. I mean, this team is the guys who have been here have gotten used to winning so much, John. And you bring new people in, and Saquon's like, I didn't even know you got a hat. And Mekhi Becton's in tears because he's going to the playoffs. It kind of shows you that the culture here in Philly is not what it's like in many other places.
Yeah, I think people underestimate that part of it. That's why some of the talk this week, and I don't want to get into it, but man. It's good to have the Eagles philosophy. It's good to be the Eagles. It's good to think like the Eagles. They don't give a flying what about division titles or individual records. And that's the way it should be. People should not dismiss that because that's a big part of it. There's nothing wrong with high expectations inside the building. Outside the building, there can be a lot wrong with it because then you have people that say Super Bowl or bust, and nothing else is an accomplishment.
Right.
And if
the Eagles just signaled that to the world, John. You do realize that, right?
Well, no, they haven't. They've signaled that they have the philosophy of just what I said. They have high expectations. To sit there as somebody just looking inside that doesn't know the culture, that doesn't know the players, that doesn't know the people, and say, all right, because you made this decision, you have to win the Super Bowl. And I heard a couple of national people say that. Right. It's not what it's about.
It's not, but don't you agree that perception is different than reality? And the perception will matter. And I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm saying the perception will be, that. And Eagles care about the perception. They do. They try and manage that the best they can, as they should. They're a billion-dollar organization, multi-billion-dollar organization. But the perception is now nationally, whether it's locally or nationally, many people are like, okay, you don't want to go for the record. That's fine. But now it's Super Bowl or bust. That is what they have signaled, in my opinion.
Well, the perception is always greater than the reality, but it doesn't make it right. From the standpoint of yes. I mean, and too often I say it all the time, people make bad decisions because this is a public facing industry and they're worried about the fallout of those decisions. More than, in other words, just placating maybe outside voices that are loud, the squeaky wheel, so to speak, versus doing what's best in the moment. And that could be fourth down, that could be sitting players, can be a bunch of different things. It's very hard to keep all of that out at all times. The Eagles do a better job than most, but yeah, they do shit all the time that is worried about because of what they're saying on certain platforms. And
absolutely.
And there's no way to completely because people are people. They're human beings. They hear
Well,
it.
yeah, and I mean, not everybody's as locked in on the Eagles as we are, though, John. They're watching Saquon's season from afar, and they're like, "Holy shit, he's going to go and make history." And then it's like, "Oh, now he's not going to make history." Boy, that Eagles, to them, the perception will be Super Bowl or bust. Because if the minute they lose, if they lose in the playoffs, that's going to be the talking point. Now it's going to be, wow, you sacrificed an NFL record that's been set for 40 years, and you didn't get the job done. So right or wrong, the Eagles created that for themselves. And by the way, one tidbit about the word perception and reality. You know what my senior year of high school yearbook quote was, John? Your perception is not always my reality. That was one of my senior yearbook quotes, a quote that my dad gave me because, I just like that quote and I put that in my yearbook.
Yeah, I mean, teams that listen to outside voices a lot are not good teams. Like
Do you
from
think
the
the Eagles listen
standpoint,
too much?
well, I think everybody listens too much. If you listen to one, you're listening to too much. And people say, that includes me. I know more about this team than most. I'm closer to this team than most, but I'm not in meetings. I'm not, getting asked questions by Jeffrey Lurie. If they listen to one outside voice, it's too much. That's every organization. Hire the right people and let them do their job. And adjust accordingly.
Is there a human nature element, though, John? You can't escape with that. Yeah, I mean,
of course, everybody does it. It's just to what degree. The Eagles are at a lesser degree than most. Like, they know they're going to get killed if they don't win the Super Bowl, but they don't give a shit. I mean, because people that say that don't understand the decision they made. But bluntly, don't understand the decision they made. It wasn't worth sacrificing an individual record to go win the Super Bowl or not win the Super Bowl. They're trying to increase their odds to win the Super Bowl. They're a very analytically driven organization. Could be a 1% bump, could be a 2% bump, could be a no percent bump. They might get it wrong. But the thought behind the organization's decision isn't like, we're going to win the Super Bowl and sacrifice this record. Trust me.
No, I get it. They're playing the odds. There is a swath of people out there, and I'm sorry, I don't think they're entirely wrong, but the Eagles did choose a route that is a little bit against what their philosophies are. When you talk about like fourth down, aggression, confidence in the team, it's like you're signaling if you lose a player, then you don't feel like you can go and win it. Versus a guy like Dan Campbell in Detroit would be like, I don't give a shit who we lose. I don't give a shit who plays what. I don't care who goes down. We're coming to win. And it's a different mindset. I'm not saying one or the other is right or wrong. The Eagles have obviously decided to go their way, but they did signal that a little bit. I mean,
well, yeah, they don't think they can win the Super Bowl without Saquon, but it's not just about Saquon. They don't think they can win a Super Bowl without AJ. They don't think they can win a Super Bowl without Lane, Jordan.
Yeah, I think that gives Detroit a small advantage, though. And you've talked about it with like the fourth down stuff this year, where Detroit has got the advantage because they're so locked into.
Well, I agree. That part I agree with. That's philosophy.
I think it's kind of tied together, in my opinion.
Dan's way of handling injuries is, more buttressing up his team. That's not like a philosophy. Fourth down's a philosophy. If the Eagles lose Saquon Barkley in practice, Nick's going to do the same thing. We have confidence in Kenny Gainwell. We're going to roll. He's going to do the same thing.
I guess a mentality might be a better word than a philosophy.
I mean, that's all just bluster and bullshit. That's like, he wants Aiden Hutchinson. He wants these guys back. He doesn't have them. So what are you going to do? Woe is me? It's what the Eagles did when Carson Wentz went down. It's what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Woe is me? I mean, everybody does that. Now, he's a little bit more vocal about it, and he's got this personality of biting kneecaps and all that stuff. But everybody, next man up is a cliche for a reason. Everybody plays that card when you have to play that card, but they don't want to play that card.
Right.
Dan Campbell wants Aiden fucking Hutchinson out there. Trust me.
No, I know that. I know that. Yeah, that's for damn sure. Anybody should want Aiden Hutchinson. John, let's get back into this. Who's playing this weekend? Let's go to the defensive side. We talked about the offense. Obviously, went through the offensive line there a little bit. Defense. Bryce Huff. I think he's going to play. Vic Fangio referred to him as rusty, Johnny Mac. So I expect to see him out there.
He's going to play. But I think he's on a snap count because of the wrist. So I don't think he's going to play a ton, but he's going to play. Certain guys have to play. Jalix is going to play a little bit. Bunch of guys are going to dress because they have to in case somebody gets hurt. They might have to go in because you have a limited number of bodies. But you everybody by now has seen the large injury report, and I apologize, my voice congested, obviously, but trying to fight through. But everybody's seen the long injury report, the rest guys. The guys who aren't practicing, Saquon, AJ, Jalen, obviously Kenny Pickett, DeMonte Smith are the guys who didn't practice. Obviously, they're not playing. Now, a bunch of those guys have injuries, except for Saquon. AJ's got the knee. Chandler's got the concussion. He's still in the protocol. He's got the finger as well. Kenny's got the ribs. DeMonte's dealing with a wrist injury. Hurt himself on that play, which was completely legal. And people don't understand what they're watching. But he did hurt his wrist, so he's got that designation. And then the limited guys for rest, these are the guys who aren't playing. Zach Bond, Mekhi Becton, Reed Blankenship, Jalen Carter, Cooper DeJean, Landon Dickerson, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Lane Johnson, Cam Jurgens, Jordan Mailata, Quinyon Mitchell, Darius Slade, Nolan Smith, Josh Sweat. Obviously, that's alphabetical order. And then guys practicing. N'Kobe has had the abdomen. He's trying to work back in. He might dress, but I don't think they want him to play. Dallas is in the practice window. That's for the playoffs. Bryce, as you mentioned, he'll play a little bit. Will Shipley, coming off the concussion, he'll play a big role, I think. So it's a long laundry list.
John, I want to ask you. So, it is a long laundry list. We'll see how this game goes. I'm excited to watch some of the guys, but I do want to ask you real quick about Jalen Hurts. And the reason I want to ask this, John, is because I have two different perspectives on it, or questions on it regarding Jalen and the concussion protocol. Now, we had Sal Palantonio on last night, obviously ESPN national correspondent. He was on our night show talking about Jalen Hurts, and the one thing he said about Jalen Hurts that was interesting to me, and maybe you can clarify this, but he said Jalen Hurts isn't even back out at football activities. Like, he's not even being seen at practice, which means he might be in the early stages of the protocol. I know there's like 5 stages, the NFL. I don't know exactly what they are, but Sal basically said, when you're not at practice, that shows you're at a little bit of an earlier stage. And then the other thing I would say is, any concern that Hurts isn't even practicing now for 2 weeks? Like, it's one thing to say you don't want him to play in the game. Who cares? Get him ready. But he's not even out there with his teammates. Like, is he at the facility? Can you kind of give me an update on is Jalen Hurts there? Is he not there? I mean, where is he at?
He is at the facility. Saw him the other day. He is not out at practice. Sal is right. I understand the conspiracy theories. If you're not out there, you're in a lesser phase. There's 5 different phases. Phase 1 is when you still have symptoms, you have very limited activity. Phase 2 is aerobic exercise. Phase 3 is football specific exercise. So he's in either phase 1 or phase 2. I know why people panic over that. I'm not telling
panicking. I just want
I'm not saying you're panicking. I'm just saying, don't worry about it. They're slow playing it on purpose. Should he be out of practice? What's he going to do at practice?
Is it fair to say that I know that they're even if they're manipulating it, is it fair to assume that Jalen's concussion was a little bit worse than we thought it was, or no?
I can't say it isn't. I can't say it is.
Okay, that's fine.
I mean, this is such a bullshit I'm sorry to put it that way, and people get mad, and you're not going to hear that from other people.
I don't get mad because it's very obvious to me.
It's such a bullshit protocol. So you can have somebody who's got very serious symptoms that is in a very serious position, and you could have this bullshit slow playing, which I think is what's going on here. So can I say that 100%? Well, I've seen the guy twice. If it were that bad, he wouldn't even be in the building. He wouldn't, and when I saw him right after the game, he seemed completely fine. Back in Washington, which is a long time ago, they didn't want him to play last week. They don't want him to play this week. I'm never going to say 100%, but I'm 99% certain he would be further along if the Eagles wanted to win this game and wanted to play this game.
Right. Okay. Well, the question then, what do the Eagles gain from keeping him in the protocol longer versus just getting him cleared from it and then resting him like they are with AJ Brown and all the and Lane Johnson and all those other players? Is there a specific advantage the Eagles have by him being in the protocol?
Yeah, I don't think they're handling it well. I don't because you have it creates these concerns, it creates these questions, whereas they could have just put him through the protocol, cleared him through the protocol, and sat him out because of the finger. Remember, they list him as concussion / finger. They could have just blamed it on the finger, sat him down. That's what I would have done. Then you wouldn't have this nonsense. And I'm not blaming Sal, but yeah, but I mean, from a technical standpoint, yeah, phase 3 is football specific exercise. And it, supervised strength training that allowed to practice, which he has not done. So in theory, he's in phase 2. Phase 4 is club-based non-contact training drills, walkthroughs, things like that. Phase 5 is full football activity clearance. Yeah, I don't think they're handling it well because they're creating these things. Right. And that's one thing I don't get about this team. They create issues that don't need to be there. Like, just get it through the protocol. Don't practice them. Blame it on the finger. Problem solved. Well, they haven't done that. And so if you say me, is he 100%? Is it not serious? I can't say that because in theory it could be. I don't think it is, but we'll see. I'm a cynic when it comes to this policy. If you don't know, if you can't guess, some guys pass in a week, some guys fly through. Will, there's no question Will was going to be through it. What is he magically?
If they needed Jalen on 6 days, for a playoff game, he'd probably have gotten through too.
That's my hunch. And if that doesn't prove it's bullshit, what does? Now, if he shows up next week and he's not cleared, then it's time to start panicking.
Yeah, because now you're in playoff prep week. I will say, man, that was a while ago, that Commander, almost 2 full weeks ago.
Well, that's why I don't know why they're doing it. So I can't explain fully why they're doing it. I think they're creating a problem that didn't need to exist. And sometimes they do that. And you had the ready-made excuse with the finger. But I guess he was playing through the finger. So I don't know. But you can say he aggravated that. And guess what? You can say what you're doing with Saquon Barkley. You can say, hey, we're just resting him. We're not playing. Rest.
That's what I mean. That's what they're saying with everyone else. I don't see the issue in saying that with Jalen Hurts. I mean, are they afraid of?
Well, you have to put them on the rule is when you're on the injury report, you're listed until you're off. In other words, you listed until you play.
Right.
So
Gotcha.
Will Shipley is on the injury report because he was on the injury report last week. He's a full participant. He's cleared. He's going to play, but he'll only drop off next week after he plays. So Jalen didn't play last week, so he's got to be on the injury report. But you can handle it better if you're the Eagles, and they should. Unless the worst case scenario. So I get the conspiracy theorist. I get the, not that it's a conspiracy. I guess my side of it's more the conspiracy. I get the people concerned about it. I don't get, I'll tell you what, I'm there every day. I don't get any panic. Normally, if the starting quarterback there was even a modicum of concern over the starting quarterback not being there for the playoffs, there'd be some significant panic. I haven't sensed that at freaking all. So,
Listen, look at Mo Mommy. He checks in the mommy or whatever it is. Chuck Bednarik is rolling in his grave listening to this conversation about a finger.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Different NFL, my friend.
It's a different time. But as far as when Carson Wentz got hurt, it was like a wake in 2017. I've got none of those blips from this. So, and I don't think that's because of belief in Kenny Pickett or Tanner McKee.
Yeah. I
think it's because there's no concern.
We'll talk about the matchups in a second. I want to answer this because I saw this come in. Bry Guy says, did anyone talk about AJ's X post? That was a fake account, Bry Guy. You got duped, my friend. I am good at picking up on.
I don't even know what it is.
He tweeted like there's a surprise for the we got a surprise on Sunday or something coming for the home fans or so. I forget, it was something like that. And I'm like, AJ Brown tweeted that. And then I clicked on the page and I quickly realized it was not AJ Brown. He just kind of took his name, took his number, and made as similar of a username as he could. So now fake account there. We got a couple super chats we'll get to as well. But John, before I get to them, any matchups in this game you're looking at? Like even if it's not for this season, even if it's for future, anything you care about, anything worth watching? Is it how Johnny Wilson lines up versus a cornerback on New York? Anything, John?
No.
John, give me something, John.
No. I mean, what do you want me to know? Just look at the young players and see how they play. I mean, matchups? No. This is bare bones. Third string quarterback, bunch of guys who don't get to play. You see some natural playmaking skills. Do want to see Will Shipley. Do want to see Trot. Guys like that who maybe have some upside to develop into something. Like to see Anaya Smith get rolling in a positive direction. The young players, I mean, see what they can do. Moro Ajomo, There's a guy.
You're going to see more Moro Ajomo next year.
There's a guy with some potential to be he's already a part of the rotation, but a guy to get a bigger part in years to come.
Texas kid. He was about 6th or 7th round, wasn't he? A couple years ago.
Yeah, 7th
round.
He got to Texas when he was 16 years old. He is a smart dude, Moro Ajomo. He's really proud. He's only 23 years old.
Wow. And he got drafted 2 years ago?
Yeah. This is his second year.
Yeah, second season.
So he's very young. He's got everything as far as physicality. A little bit undersized. That's why he was a later pick to play inside, but very strong, very athletic, as people have gotten to see. So he's got some big upside. Safeties, Tristan and Sydney. Sydney's got to get out of the Big Fangio doghouse a little bit, play a little bit more disciplined.
Yeah.
See if he can do that.
What did Vic Fangio think of him throwing some haymakers at the end of that game?
Well, I'm sure that's never a
You
positive.
know, some fans love that shit. They're like, yeah, go to Sydney. And I'm like, dude, it's a meaningful game and you're winning 41-7. Shut the fuck up and go to the sideline. What are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah, that's not viewed positively by the coaching staff. Nor was CJ the week prior. I mean, you saw CJ is very rarely repentant. You saw he was very repentant, taking responsibility and accountability. Yeah, coaches don't like stupid shit. And Vic would be at the top of that list.
Good stuff. Let's get to a couple super chats here. You heard Johnny Mac, guys. Not many good matchups in this game. Just watch a couple players you like and
matchups. They're not.
Watch a couple players you're interested in, and you know, we'll talk to you about it on the post.
Trust me. And by the way, from a scheme standpoint, the Eagles don't want to show anything to anybody. It truly is like a preseason game. I mean, bare bones. Other than you don't have as many players to use. As bare bones as possible. And, you know, just see if some of the young guys can make some plays. But I assume that AJ thing was about this. Oh, maybe they're going to surprise people.
Yeah.
And show up and Saquon's going. They ain't fucking surprising people.
Dude, I posted up our segment. I posted up our segment after it, you know, after Nick said that. And I posted up, oh, you know, Saquon Barkley's not going for the record. And one dude comments, he's like, he said probably not playing. You guys don't know yet. I'm like, dude, what fucking delusion land are you in that you think that they're gonna go against what he said there? There's no way they play anybody this weekend.
No. They, you know, it's like people think they don't prepare during the week. I don't know. They just show up one week and then they show up the next week. You know, they're practicing the younger players and the players that are going to play. The guys like, you know, talked to Jordan because he got snubbed a long time yesterday. And he, you know, he's not lying when he says, you know, we're going to rest and try to get these guys prepared as best as possible. When you're out there watching practice, yeah. You're not going to be surprised.
Yeah, no. I'm with Bry Guy here, though, about Jalen. He says, why not just get him through it so we can join the team and all that stuff? I agree. I don't know what they're really doing with it.
Well, I don't disagree with that. I would stop all this talk immediately as quickly as possible. No, I mean, there's no manipulation of a roster spot. He's not going to dress and he's going to be inactive.
Yeah, which is why I don't understand why they're holding them, you know, back in protocol. But I don't know. They're doing it for a reason. Who knows what it is? JT, let's get some super chats here, guys. Appreciate all of you guys in the chat. Don't forget to hit that like button. We got a great crowd in here for a Football Friday. Football Friday versus Eagles versus Giants. It's like Eagles number 2, though. It's like Eagles backups versus the New York Giants. So, and we're still favored, by the way. Somehow we're still favored by 3 points.
Which is ridiculous.
3 points in this game. With projected,
that is a well, you're talking about a slap in the face to the New York Giants.
Holy shit! I mean,
by the way, if you want to win some money, you might want to bet on the Giants.
You think? I think the Eagles could.
I'm picking the Giants to win the game. I mean,
Drew Lock showed you something last week, didn't he, John?
Well, he's an NFL quarterback. I mean, like I said,
listen, he's got the Eagles number. He beat us last year, too.
He beat them last year. He had 4 touchdowns last week. You know, I don't know what the Giants are doing. Maybe the Giants are shutting people down. I don't know. They want to lose, too. This is like the South Park episode where they're playing baseball. All the kids want to lose.
And everyone wants to lose.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Nah, the Eagles are going to try to win the game, but the players, I shouldn't, you know, I don't want to say that. But, you know, they want to win the game with the players they're playing. But they're not going to play anybody. So, you know, hopefully Tanner McKee gets people excited. I want one person to say Tanner McKee. I want Tanner McKee to throw for 4 touchdowns in this game. That would look great. And look like the second coming of Bobby Hoying And I want people saying he should start the playoff game.
Tanner McBrady is what they're calling him, or Tanner Montana.
Can we get one person to say Tanner McKee should start the playoff game?
We already have it. What are you talking about? Brian
Already
Pumper's
have it?
been in here.
No.
Brian Pumper's been in here.
Brian's an act. That's just
Tanner Delphia, baby. Woo!
I want one real person to go down that rabbit hole of craziness.
I wouldn't be surprised if that was in our chat right now and it wasn't Brian. Does anybody in the chat believe
You're telling me we don't
win?
even need the 4 touchdown game to do it? We're already there.
Does anybody in the chat believe we have a better chance to win the Super Bowl with Tanner McKee than Jalen Hurts? Anybody out there? Can we show Johnny Mac or what?
I don't want to. That's a call for help. That's what that is. Nobody wants to admit that in public.
Jessica says, "Can we get a prize if we say it?"
Yeah. No, you have to really believe it. I don't, and there's no way to gauge that because there's no way I would believe that somebody really believes that.
I know. I'm just messing with everybody. I'm just having a little fun on a football Friday.
By the way, I brought this up yesterday. Records. Nobody knows the receiving record, which is Calvin Johnson.
It is. I knew that when you said it. Actually,
and then. Well, they might know it's Calvin Johnson. A few. When I say everyone, I mean the vast majority.
Like right around 2K, I think, for just under 2K.
Yeah, it's 1937 or something, but somewhere around there. And then I was thinking because I was on Gil's show in the afternoon, he was on with us in the morning. I was on it, and I'm like, the highest profile position in sports, in professional sports in this country is quarterback, and nobody knows the fucking passing record. And that's the highest profile position in the world, in the most popular sport, certainly North America, you can argue, world. I'm going too far because most of the world is bigger on soccer. But you get my point. Those are the guys that everybody knows, and nobody even knows that record. And everybody acts like
it's for the season?
Single season passing record.
My guess would be Peyton Manning or Tom Brady.
It is Peyton. Nobody knows the number.
I know it's well over 5K yards. It's got to be like 5,500, somewhere in that range.
It was Drew Brees, who another high. It's 54.77. 54. He beat 54.76. Nobody knows that number. Nobody knows that number. I didn't know that number. I may have gotten it wrong. I had to look it up. I knew he had the record. Nobody knew this record. Nobody. That's my problem. That is the hypocrisy of it all. Oh, this is Babe Ruth. This is bullshit.
I bet you the fans though. I bet you.
I call shit.
I think it's different. I mean, when it happens to your team, your city, your player, I think it's
of course, but don't. Yeah. That's fine to get excited in the moment, but don't act like it was bigger to you than it is. It's only because it's your team and in the moment, and that's from the Eagles' perspective. Maybe you can better understand. That's why I'm saying it. They're not worried about some bullshit individual record that isn't going to mean a goddamn thing down the road. They're worried about winning a Super Bowl, which is what you should want. Period. End of sentence. I'm sorry I even brought it up, but the hypocrisy drives me crazy.
Good stuff. Peyton Manning, debating Manning. That commercial is a funny commercial. I do like that commercial.
I like
for
Peyton.
The people.
I like the
Peyton. This guy put in Peyton Manning. That's a good.
Yeah, he's a Peyton. He's Peyton and he's Peyton.
Yeah, that's good. They're all good. The Mannings are a funny bunch.
The great Saturday Night Live skits ever is Peyton Manning firing footballs in the face of kids.
They even got the third guy now. What's his name? I forget his name.
Cooper?
Yeah, Cooper Manning. They even got him in commercials now.
Yeah, Cooper. No. Now we got the new Manning, Arch. We'll see what Arch does.
You don't sound like you're a fan of Cooper.
Well, I mean, come on, Cooper. You can't even play quarterback in that family. You got Archie. You got Peyton, you got Eli. Well, Eli can't play quarterback either. But
oh, bullshit. Guy knocks off the best quarterback of all time twice in a Super Bowl.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
Oh, my God.
Eli's a very good quarterback.
What we will not do today is we will not debate Eli Manning.
Eli's a very good quarterback. It's a joke. He's not a Hall of Fame quarterback. That's all I say.
All right, we're going to get to a commercial break, and then we're going to get to all these super chats. I appreciate all you guys. JT Philly, A-Team, Lauren Crampsey, Menifee, and Herman. Thank you guys for the super chats. I'm going to take a commercial break. When we get back, we'll dive into some super chats. I put up a super chat goal just for some Q&A. So if you guys have any questions for John and you're willing to support the channel, drop those in there, and we will read them in hour number 2. They can be playoffs too, because I don't want, there's not too much to talk about with the week 18 game here. Eagles versus Giants, the backup bowl again, even bigger backup bowl as the whole roster is going to be freaking backup. So we'll see how that game goes. Let's get to our first commercial break though. Appreciate all you guys being here. Don't forget to hit that like button. I'm going to tell you guys about the great people at BetUS. Check them out. You can see the promo code I just put on your screen. It's 150% sign-up bonus on your very first deposit, and you can use the code YouTube150 to get it, and you get 125% on your second and third deposit, all up to $2,000. So deposit less and bet with more at BetUS. Go to betus.com.pa. That's betus.com.pa. They have the fastest payouts in the industry, 24/7 customer support, and they'll even give you your own custom account manager. So go check them out. Go to betus.com.pa. and use that promo code YouTube150. Big thanks to them for sponsoring the 2-hour show today. We'll be back in 3 minutes, and we'll hit all your super chats coming up next on Birds 365.
Ignite your nights with free live entertainment daily, only at Live Casino and Hotel Philadelphia's Center Bar. 7 days a week, enjoy some of the region's top party bands, performers, and DJs as they take the stage in the heart of the casino action. Great cocktails, live music, and lively moments. It's all happening at Center Bar at Live Casino and Hotel Philadelphia. Visit livecasinophilly.com for more details and the complete list of upcoming events. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
The following is a real testimonial from the father of a young injured victim.
I didn't think she was going to make it.
Major Perry's daughter was the victim of a horrific accident caused by someone else's negligence.
If you don't find the right counselor, law firm that you're looking for, you will get lost in the wilderness.
Badly injured? Call the Fritz and Bianculli Law Firm at 215-458-2222 and find out why they say, "We got this."
In our hometown, we all look out for each other. We step up to keep our communities going strong. And at Independence Blue Cross, we're here to keep you going strong as the #1 health insurer in the region. No IBX is always looking out for you.
We noticed that there was mold creeping into our basement about a year and a half ago, and wanted to make sure that we were getting rid of the problem permanently. We actually reached out to several different contractors to get it resolved, and actually 2 of them recommended DryTech to us as a long-term solution. Other than the noise factor, we wouldn't even know that there was work being done on the basement level. It's really been a clean process for us.
Score and save this football season on your car insurance. Before the next game, save up to 40% on your auto insurance policy. That's right, 40% savings. Call an Audible this season and contact the Del Val Insurance Group. They're an advocate for you, not an insurance company. That means they'll get you the right coverage and save you up to 40%. Call managing partners Fran or Jim of Del Val Insurance, 215-354-0122, or score and save at dvigi.com. dvigi.com.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to a Football Friday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. Give me a follow on X at Real Zander. I always try and connect with all the great people of JAKIB Nation, and that's John McMullen, the #1 Eagles beat reporter in town. Give him a follow at JF McMullen. He shares up pictures and reports and everything on his X account, so stay plugged in with him over there on X as well, if you're over there. And if you're not subscribed to the channel and you're a watcher, about 45% of our viewers, John, are watchers, but not subscribers.
Got to subscribe to win the.
No, you don't even have to subscribe to win. That's member. That's $5 a month. Subscribe is free. Subscribe doesn't cost you a dime. So hit that subscribe button for us. And we appreciate all you guys being here. Hit that like button on the show today. John, let's get to a couple of super chats from the great people of JAKIB Nation. JT Philly says, how do you feel Jalen will look going into the playoffs, missing 3 consecutive weeks? He didn't play preseason and came out with 2 ints, 2 fumbles against Green Bay in week 1, and they were some pretty ugly interceptions, JT Philly, if you remember those. John, I think it's a good question. I think it's a fair question. It's something I've been asking you. What do you say to JT Philly here?
Yeah, I mean, I think there could be some rust early in games, but the Eagles haven't been a quick starting team in general. They have improved that down the stretch a little bit, but for most of the year with Jalen, they've been a slow starting team, and then they finish strongly. I think they are what they are at this point. They're going to, and a lot of Philadelphia likes that. They're going to lean on the running game. And they're going to try to play good defense and try to win that way. I think they are what they are at this point, and we're going to see if they can finish it off playing that way. They're not going to change at this late stage, especially when the quarterback hasn't been healthy over the past couple of weeks. And, you know, it's going to be it's going to be very exciting if they do win, I think, for Eagles fans, because they like that. Most of them like that brand of football.
Am I wrong in saying that, to me, Jalen is more of a rhythm player, and that's why I worry about this? Like, some people have like this crazy arm talent where you're just like, yeah, they're going to make those throws no matter what. They're just gifted with that type of arm talent. I don't see that as much for Jalen. I see him as like a rhythm player who thrives once he gets going, once he gets comfortable, once he, finds his groove in an offense. And that's kind of why I have not fears, but I'm definitely looking out for it. If Jalen starts super slow in that game or is rusty or looks sluggish or whatever, is inaccurate, anything.
Well, I think all quarterbacks are rhythm players. That's why they all talk about rhythm. And that's one of my criticisms of Kellen Moore. I would do I don't want to say better, but I would put more of a focus on getting him in a rhythm earlier. Like I always say, it seems like the Eagles always get going when they play tempo because he gets into a rhythm. But that's everybody, Was watching after the Eagles game last week, was watching Minnesota Green Bay. And then, Minnesota goes tempo, and there's Sam Darnold in a rhythm. Right. Late in the game, when Green Bay's coming back, they go tempo, and Jordan Love gets in a rhythm. It's literally every quarterback from Tom Brady on down.
Yeah.
And Tom talks about it all the time. He talks
Why
about
would it not be a concern then with Jalen right now?
Well, it is. I think that's where the coaching staff has to do a better job early in games to get him in that rhythm. And if that means coming out in tempo, come out in tempo. Who cares? But yeah, I don't think they've done a good job of that this season overall.
No, I agree with that for sure. Let's keep rolling here. Jason 18. What's up, Jason? Appreciate you, brother. He says, isn't it obvious the Eagles are using the concussion to keep him out of the game, that the Eagles don't take flack from the media? They would if healthy. I don't know if they would.
I don't know. Who the hell?
They're sitting everybody else, 18. What the fuck?
I mean, you can't. I can't speak for everybody in the media. That's one of my pet peeves, that they lump us all together. I mean, the vast majority of us who are there every day will not be giving the Eagles shit for sitting Jalen Hurts. I mean, we all think it's common sense for the most part. So I disagree with that. I can't speak to talk show host and.
Well, there are a lot
Sure.
of former players, John, that disagree.
Well, the guys, Chris Canny evidently always criticized.
Even an Eagles legend, a guy like Seth Joyner, who's been making the rounds this week.
mean,
he talks all the time.
I love Seth, but come on, we know Seth by this point.
Oh,
Seth's ultra old school. I mean, there's
I'm not trying to say
it.
one is right or wrong. I'm just adding the context in that there's other people out there that have a differing opinion on it.
Well, yeah, there's always going to be people. Always. I'm saying, but for the guys who are there every day, I mean, I don't see that coming from them. I'll say that.
It is a rare opportunity, though, John. I will say that. I don't disagree with the resting, but it's a rare. I mean, you're talking about a guy that has the chance to. I mean, there's great NFL players. There's NFL players who are gifted by God. Then there's great NFL players who are a little bit more gifted by God. And then there's the elite of the elite of the elite in the history of the game. And Saquon has a chance to surpass them on a record. I think it's pretty powerful, but I get it. I do get it. I really see both sides of this. I said yesterday, I'm riding the fence on this issue because if they get bounced, I'm probably going to say, we should have went for the record. And if they go to the Super Bowl, I'm going to say, hey, look.
And the hypocrisy part is, let's be honest, if they went for the record in a meaningless game and he did get injured, and it doesn't even have to be Saquon, those same people would be burying this team. So I don't take it seriously. I don't take it seriously. I don't take anybody seriously who can't be honest with themselves. And that could be whether it's just shtick or whether it's just a bullshit narrative to create.
Right, I don't disagree with that.
And anybody who's going to go, well, I want it all. All right, And again, I go back to the hypocrisy of I can't take it seriously that people pretend that this record was meaningful for them 3 weeks ago, a month ago. It's only become meaningful over the past few weeks because there's a chance that it could happen. Nobody knew it. And again, I'm using that facetiously. There's a couple hardcore fans here and there who knew Eric Dickerson, knew the number, but not many. And now it's pretend like it's Babe Ruth, like it's Hank Aaron beating Babe Ruth. It's just not. And Saquon said him, and Saquon's the guy. And obviously he wants to break the record. And he said it himself. He's like, yeah, Eric's got the record, but OJ had a better year. Barry had a better year, basically. Did it in 335 carries. He's already had a better year. So who gives a shit?
I think you're down. I mean, I don't disagree with that. I think you're downplaying the record a little bit. I mean, it's 40 years standing, John. That's a long time, man.
Again, that's you're failing to go back to where you were in August.
No, the team element I agree with, but I do think I don't think there's a world that exists that Saquon won't regret this in the future. I think there's a 100% chance he regrets not going for it in the future.
If I had a crystal ball and I said Saquon was going to break the all-time rushing record back in August as we're getting ready for week 1, the vast majority of people say, what is the rushing record? So I'm not going to pretend it's Hank Aaron beating Babe Ruth. Other people can.
Because it hasn't been set in 40 years. Maybe that has something to do with it. But, I mean, like I said, Saquon will regret it. I mean, whether we win a Super Bowl or not, he will look back and say, dang, I was that close to being the top of the list on a list of the most elite players and most elite running backs to ever play football. I mean, many have.
Well, I don't know when Babe Ruth retired. I don't know when Hank, 1935, but everybody knew that damn number. Way up, right up until Hank Aaron beat it. Everybody knew that number. I'm not going to pretend it's that type of record because it's not. Other people can. Go ahead. Knock yourself out. Anybody who wants to do it. But you're lying to yourselves. That's all I'm saying.
Let's keep rolling here. Lauren Crampsey checks in. Good morning, Lauren. Happy New Year to you. She says, Happy New Year, folks. We Eagles fans are the Goldilocks of football. Too cold, too hot, should be playing, should be resting. Porridge is never right. Jalen, regarding Jalen, there's too many cooks in the kitchen. Are you talking about the protocol there? I guess you're talking about the protocol with that. I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to at the end. But
I mean, I don't think it's.
Eagles fans.
I don't think from the Eagles' perspective it's too hot, too cold. That's from the outside. There's so much passion with fans covering this team, with fans following this team. Like, again, to me, from being inside that building over the past couple of days, from talking to people, this was not a difficult decision for the Eagles. It's not too hot, too cold. This is all outside. They're not inside. This was not a difficult decision for the Eagles. So,
Lauren, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate you. Josh Herman says, Josh, appreciate you. John, who is playing, McKee or Pickett? Looks like McKee, right?
yeah, Kenny's not even practicing. He's not. It's going to be Tanner McKee and Ian Book. It's your backup.
Yeah, Lauren did follow up. She said Jalen's protocol drama. Too many people deciding what to say to media and why. I probably agree with that.
Well, no, I mean, that's not that. Why they're doing it the way they're doing it, I don't know. But yeah, it's not. It's got nothing to do with the media. I mean, it's easy. You're not allowed to talk about people in the concussion protocol. So I mean, it doesn't. Yeah, it's not about fending us off. In fact, the opposite would be better for them, which is why I think it's strange the way they're handling it.
I would just prefer to get them back out of the protocol and then rest them. But I don't know. I guess there's a problem with that now, too. Jason A-Team again. Thank you, A-Team. Appreciate your support, my friend. He says, Ajomo was one of my players to watch before the season. I've watched him play all year. He runs around like a linebacker and is a very good pass rusher. I agree. And A-Team, I think he's given them some security or some insurance. If Milton Williams decides to walk this year, I think they might feel not great, but maybe comfortable with the Ajomo stepping up and having a bigger role next year on the defensive line. John, what say you?
Yeah, I think Morrow's got a chance to be a really good player. And, you know, there's going to be a lot of Milton Williams interest around the NFL. So how, you know, quickly, it's one of those things where, hey, maybe we believe in Moro Ajomo to a point where you don't have to pay Milton Williams $13 million a year, whatever. I'm just throwing a number out there.
Is that what you think he's going to get? $13 million around there?
I mean, that's why I shouldn't have thrown out a number.
I don't know. I think it might be more than that.
I haven't even got. It's a position teams generally pay for, so he's probably going to get overpaid in free agency. So if they believe that Moro Ajomo, you know, can take that next step, that would make it easier not to get in that bidding war if you don't want to. Sometimes that's good. Sometimes that's bad. You know, same thing could happen with Zach Baldwin at linebacker. If you believe in Jeremiah Trotter Jr., you know, all depend. Everything in the NFL involves, you know, it boils down to personnel evaluation. Is this guy going to be a really good player? And it's tough to make the right decisions all the time.
Absolutely. I think Milton Williams is going to get paid, though. Charles Menifee. What's up, Charles? I appreciate you, brother. He says Saquon winning Super Bowl MVP after foregoing an opportunity to break the record would be a bigger and more memorable story. I agree with that. Obviously, Super Bowl MVP. But Menifee, I still think he'll look back in the future and say, well, I wish I had the record, too, because I could have had it, you know. But you're not wrong. I mean, that's what they're focused on, obviously. But
Saquon's focused on Terrell Davis now.
I like that being said.
Who was the all-time rushing record, which nobody knows about or cares about.
Like 24-70? What is it?
24 something. It's in the 24s. because he won the Super Bowl. And
I think he
went
can pretty easily do that. We're gonna have, if you go to the Super Bowl, you got 4 playoff games.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, and that's the one he's focused on. And actually, from a player standpoint, that should be more meaningful because playoff games are more important than regular season games, way more important. And Terrell Davis should be a bigger name than Eric Dickerson, but nobody cares because nobody looks at it that way.
Good stuff, Menifee. Thank you, brother. Dirty Air checks in, and he says, how do we really feel about Dallas Goedert? Time to look at his replacement, ? Well, Dirty Air, in the immediate, I feel good about getting him back for the playoffs because he's a good player and we got him back. In the future, a long-term conversation, after off-season conversation, yeah, I'm ready to move on. John, what do you say?
Yeah, I mean, he's very meaningful. I get, and the Eagles are probably going to look not necessarily move on, but to look about the heir apparent down the road.
Yeah,
Remember, they drafted Dallas Goedert when Zach Ertz was here, and Zach was younger than Dallas is now. So that's just in general. But I don't think people realize, on a team that Dallas has played 8 games because he got, it'll say 9, but he got hurt. He got hurt on the 3rd play of the Cleveland game when he pulled his hamstring. So he didn't play that entire game. And I was just doing it. I'm going to do it real quick again. I don't think people understand how impactful he was being as a receiver on a team that wasn't even throwing the football. I mean, he's got 38 receptions and 441 yards in 8 games. If you project that out as a healthy season, that's 81 receptions and over 900 yards from a tight end. He's very impactful when he's on the field. And this is a team that is not a high volume passing team.
John, you always say you mute people who say he's made of glass. All right, and I'm fine.
I mute people who say anybody's made of glass.
Okay, but here's my question for how do I ask you
but
that?
him specifically?
How do I ask you that question,
guys on the team? What?
And then if I can't say that, how do you expect me to ask you that question? Because I look at his career, he misses games every single year.
That's a relevant question. I have no problem with that. I have a problem with people saying that the insults, the glass, he's made of glass. Like, he's one of the toughest players on the team. Many of his injuries, the broken forearm most notably, are because he's being physical on the field and running people over. Which to the point he won, as I said, he won Kyle Brandt's Angry Run Award twice that year. And he admitted to me, I got to stop doing that because I'm just, hurting myself. And you got to live to play another day, so to speak. Injuries are injuries. Sometimes, to me, again, there's and football players will tell you this all the time. Are you injured or are you hurt? And if you're injured, you can't play. If you're hurt, you can play through it. You sprain your knee, you sprain your knee. You break your glenoid bone in your shoulder, you broke your glenoid bone in your shoulder.
He has had some weird injuries. Man.
It's like luck is a thing, bad luck, good luck, whatever you want to call it. People don't like to say it. I've seen so many injury prone. Probably Jordan Hicks is a perfect example of this. When he was an Eagles player, great player when he was here, one of Chip Kelly's best players, best draft picks, and he always got hurt. Every year he got hurt. And everybody, Jordan Hicks is made of glass. Then he left here. He stayed healthy for, 5 consecutive seasons, played every game. Every fucking game. For 5 consecutive seasons. Sometimes the worm turns.
Yeah, right. I get it. I get what you're saying.
Now, there are guys who don't bite through injuries that, other people would. That's not Dallas. Dallas is not the guy who's tapping out. There's 2 stories I always tell. And this is, again, where teams should be more honest. There's a year the Eagles said Darren Sproles was out with a hamstring injury. And then he was out for 2 weeks, and he was out for 4 weeks, and he was out for 6 weeks, and he was out
Yeah.
for 8 weeks. And everybody's ripping Darren Sproles. How can he not be back from a hamstring injury? How can he not be back from a hamstring? And anybody who knows Darren Sproles knows that dude is, I always joke, people call him small. He's not small. He's short. He was short. He was the pound for pound. He's the most powerful player on the Eagles. He benched 450.
Yeah.
It's just an immensely powerful person, immensely tough player. And the Eagles did all this. And then it came out, like Bonnie comes back after 9 weeks or so, whatever it was. He had a torn hamstring. He didn't have a strain. He had a torn hamstring. And then give out the information, and everybody's out there ripping him. And then Nate Gary's a player everybody hated, and the coaching staff loved. And they'd hear Jim Schwartz talk about him. They'd hear Ken Plajold, the linebackers coach at the time, and they loved Nate Gary. And nobody could figure out because he's getting beat. He wasn't a great player, let's be honest. He's getting beat in coverage all the time. But the coaching staff loved him. And the reason they loved him, he played a whole season with a sports hernia where everybody else would have went down the street to the Navy Yard to Dr. Brad, like to get it. Dr. Myers, William Myers is the guy, to get it fixed and be out for the season. But the Eagles didn't have any linebackers, and they needed him to play. And he played through it, immense pain the entire time. So the coaching staff had tremendous respect for him. So that's why I just mute people who, it's ignorant. Let's be honest. I mean, and these are football players. These guys take some freaking punishment, and you got some guy on his couch saying they're made of glass. I mean, yeah, I mute those people. If the average person took one hit on a football field, they would get up crying and take their ball and go home. So that's why I don't like that.
That's fair. Kenny Sprague checks in. He says, thoughts on all CFP teams with the bye losing. I think having a month off facing a fresh team was an issue. Every team started off slow. Yeah, I mean, Kenny, I'm a big college football fan. I like watching college football, but it was interesting. Oregon got blown out in their game. I mean, that was an ugly game. A lot of shitty games.
Well, two of the teams that got buys didn't deserve to get the buys. That's just a shitty setup. Yeah. Boise State and SMU
they can't figure this shit out. The college has so much work to do. I mean, they talked about bringing in a commissioner. I thought that was a great idea. They need somebody to create some guardrails or some, for this.
I know. That's the problem. It's very difficult because in college there's this tremendous difference in talent. From even schools like SMU and
absolutely.
Penn State or
even the best schools, John, like the top of the roster versus the bottom of the roster, the difference is massive.
Yeah. So you can't compare college to the NFL, and the NFL is so close. And even the worst team has a bunch of really good players. In college, you get these teams that play these crowd. Indiana's the best example, probably. Yeah, and I was laughing about it. I was watching that bowl game. Who beat Indiana? Jesus, I can't. Notre Dame beat Indiana pretty handily. They actually scored a couple garbage touchdowns at the end, but it was a blowout. And the coach of Indiana, I forget his name, but the coach of Indiana was National Coach of the Year. They're talking about it. He came from James Madison. And they're talking about during the broadcast like multiple times. Well, he looked at the schedule and he saw 10 wins. and it's like, because he knows he's playing bullshit teams. So I'm like, I'll go to Indiana. I'll go win 12 games. I'm National Coach of the Year.
Yeah, right.
I mean, most college teams, and Zander, you know this, Nick Saban, not the joke they have that replaced him, but
fuck that guy.
He could pick up a schedule every year and say, all right, I'm starting with 10 wins. That's not the NFL. So anybody who compares college to the NFL, you're way off base. I mean, there are no off weeks in the NFL. there's a little bit close to it when you're playing a bad team, and late in the season, the really bad teams tend to give up. But if you look early in the season where guys are biting and these games are so close and so competitive, completely different environment than college football. Completely different environment. Even the people that cover college football have no idea who's really good and who isn't. How could you? Like, is Ohio State really good? Maybe. Is Notre Dame really good? Maybe. You know, when they get up to whoever's going to win, there's only 4 teams. So these 4 are probably really good. But as you saw with, Oregon has the great season. They get blown out by Ohio State. Maybe Ohio State's really good.
Who do you think wins it all? 4 teams left. Notre Dame versus Penn State, Ohio State versus Texas.
Well, I can't stand the Penn State people, so I'm going Notre Dame.
You and me both. You and me both.
And Texas.
Where's Real Zeal? Is he in here? Oh my God, the Penn State talk from that
Ohio State. My buddy Jeff Kerr is just I can't.
Oh, Jeff's up
I
there
can't
too.
take the Penn State. It's really Jeff's fault. I shouldn't blame all the Penn State, but so Penn State people blame Jeff.
Penn Staters know it too. They're
Mosher too. All the Jeffs. Stop. Calm down with this Penn State nonsense.
Oh, man.
But yeah. So I'm biased against Penn State. So I'll pick Notre Dame, and then I think Ohio State's better than Texas. So
I do too.
I'm going to go Notre Dame, Ohio State, and there I'll probably pick Ohio State.
Yeah, that's exactly how I had it, Johnny Mac. I'd like to see Notre Dame win, though. The Catholic in me wants to see Notre Dame win, but it should be a good finish.
I think they have a good team, but they're like the Lions. I think they have a legitimate they were really good. They lost so many players to injury. Like, it's amazing they keep going. They lost that. Their defense is one of the best in the country, and they just lost Howard Cross again. He's like an All-American. They lost their best pass rusher, and they keep winning. So, but at some point, I think it bites them in the you-know-what.
Yep. Jay Perfect checks in. Good stuff there. Appreciate the super chat. Jay Perfect checks in. He says, most people don't know the rushing record, John, because it's not a player of their team. For most Eagles fans, it will be fun bragging about it in the future. And John,
I agree with that. And I have no problem with people like Jay who understand the situation. Jay, my problem is with people that act like it's Babe Ruth's record.
Okay, that's fair.
That is my problem.
Can I also throw in one more thing though? I think like we are talking about sports here, John. Like, we're not talking about solving world peace or like a war. Like, we're talking about sports. Like, isn't there an element of sports that's supposed to be about some of those things? It's supposed to be about achieving records and making the fans feel good and all those things. Like, isn't that part of what it is? Like, we've gotten to this point where it's like, I don't know. I feel like we're acting like it's this great
it's
big
fine.
consequential thing.
It's fine. I think Jay said it perfectly.
It's week 18.
Fine.
Play the fucking guys. They're making millions of dollars. Play the fucking guys. Who cares?
It's fine. It's fine to brag about it. It's fine to want to brag about it. I have no problem. Spike the football, celebrate, blah, blah, blah. That's not what I have a problem with. I have a problem with the hypocrisy of certain others, not everybody, but of certain others who pretend it's more than it is, than what Jay just said it is, which I agree with him. Yeah, and I always say, look, I'm not covering the White House. I'm not covering politics. I'm not covering real world issues. It's fucking sports. That's why I don't. That's why I don't. My whole mood isn't based on whether the Eagles or any other team wins or loses. I don't give a shit. I have to do my job, whether they win, lose, draw, whatever. So it doesn't impact me in that way. But yeah, it should be. How many times have I said on this show, enjoy this, enjoy the journey?
Yes.
It ain't always like this. But I will also tell you, from the team's perspective, their goal is to win the Super Bowl. and it should be, and that's what you want. And a lot of people, I think, a lot of people get lost in other shit that doesn't matter. So from the team's perspective, I'll defend the team because I think you're lost in shit that doesn't matter. That is how I would phrase it. Like, to them, it doesn't matter. To Jeffrey Lurie, it doesn't matter. You could say it should for business and marketing purposes. And if it happened organically, he would love it.
It was about to happen organically. What do you mean organic? Week 18, the starters are supposed to play in a normal circumstance. So technically, organically would be them playing in week 18.
Organically is being good enough to do what you want to do in week 18. If they had to win, they would have played their guys. Right, that's organically. If they had to win, if the game meant something, that's what I mean by organically. They don't have to win. It doesn't, they can't move up. They can't move down. They're locked in. They can't, that's, yeah. Or organically, in your definition of, well, they're professional athletes. There's 18 weeks. They should play all 18 weeks. Again, if I believed even for an inkling, Zander, they played in this game and lost. Doesn't have to be Saquon. Could be Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. I don't want to pick anybody out. Could be.
Just somebody. I get what you're saying.
They lose a meaningful player. You'd be back on this show ripping them to shreds. And so would everybody else. And by the way, I would have been ripping them to shreds before the game. I'm not taking them. I would have been ripping them to shreds if they were playing people in this game. I guarantee you that. I guarantee you. I said that to an Eagles executive yesterday. I said, I'll be honest with you. I would have ripped Nick to high heaven if he played starters in this game. That's my exact quote. I would have killed him.
Yeah, well, there's people killing them. There's people, people that want the other thing. So there's always going to be a break there where some people kill them, some people don't. I'd like to, I don't know. My point of it is just fucking play. Like, it's week 18. What are we afraid of here? If somebody goes down, okay, you left it all out in the field. That's part of what sports is.
It just happened last year, which is the crazy part.
But that was a meaningful game. They were trying to get a better seed in that game.
I know, and it fucked them. They had a very small.
I'm sorry, I don't like that comp at all. I don't think that comp is good at all.
They had a very small chance, and they should. I didn't kill them for that because they should. And I said the same thing this year because I value consistency. If there was any opportunity to get the number 1 seed, I would have advocated them playing. And then you scoreboard watch because they would have put the games at the same time. They always do that. So you can't just not play and you can't just play. And then they would have scoreboard watched. And if it became clear that whomever, if Detroit was going to win the number 1, they would have started pulling guys, which is what they did last year. But it happened too late, and a bunch of guys got injured, and they got screwed. So to say you to go out and do it again with nothing on the line, that would have been crazy.
Let's say.
And by the way, it's Nick's decision, but Nick is smart enough to know what the decision should be. And if it came down to it, he would have been overruled anyway.
It's fair. Let's keep rolling here. M. Halpin says, I am pumped to see TM, Tanner McKee. All right.
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, a lot of people, will be pumped to see the younger players, and Tanner most notably. So there will be some excitement from that standpoint for at least some people. Like I said, Will Shipley, Jeremiah Trotter Jr., Kaylee Ringo. It's a guy I haven't mentioned. He's going to get an opportunity to play corner for a long, period of time. A lot of guys, Will Shipley and et cetera. Monroe Jomo, we talked about a little bit. Let's see what these guys can do.
Looking forward to it. Josh Herman checks in. Appreciate all the super chats, by the way, everybody. Thanks for getting us close to our super chat goal for the day. We appreciate that support of the channel. A little football Friday here with a pretty shitty game on the horizon. See, that's what I hate. I mean, people paying money, John, to go to this game. They're going to fucking watch.
Wow. I
A
mean,
bunch of scrubs.
look at the NBA when Greg Popovich unleashed load
You're right.
management.
NFL is not the main culprit there, but I'm just saying,
I mean,
Josh Herman says, good.
You'd pay like hundreds of dollars to see Tim Duncan, and all of a sudden, we're going to rest Tim Duncan and Tony Parker. And
NBA sucks. Don't even get me started on that shit product. Josh Herman, $5. He says the only way Nick doesn't get flack for resting Saquon is by winning the Super Bowl, not just going. Kind of feel bad for him.
Wow,
right,
he was honestly, I mean, we've been talking about that since training camp, since this wasn't a thing. Nick's going to get shit no matter what, whenever they lose, whenever they bow out. So, I mean, that's just part of it. He knows it. Quarterback too, Jalen as well. That's just part of the job. And it was always Super Bowl or bust with this team long before anybody was talking about this record. They know it's Super Bowl or bust. It's always been Super Bowl or bust.
Did you see the little report that came out yesterday? I forget who it was, about Nick Sirianni. Like, either his job's in jeopardy if he's a one and done. I'm like, hello. No. We've been talking about that for a year.
Yeah. His job.
Who was it? I forget who reported that. Somebody was it Andrew Fowler?
Jeremy Fowler?
Jeremy Fowler.
I do not believe Jeremy would say that, but I don't know who did it. So
no, he reported it yesterday. Yeah, Nick Sirianni's job could be in jeopardy if they're a one and done in the playoffs.
I didn't see it.
Is that Jeffrey Lurie going through the cracks in the media? Like, put some pressure on Nick. Let him know we got big goals here.
Boy, I have to see it. I find it very hard to believe Jeremy said
Let me find the tweet real quick. I'll send it to you.
But if he said it, yeah. I mean, there's a small path. Like, if they get destroyed in the first round of the playoffs, I'm not going to say, and I'm talking 40-3 type destroyed, which ain't going to happen. And it's something embarrassing like that. You never know, because things become very emotional at that point. And you never have, you're talking about one individual and you're talking about his reaction to something like that. So you always keep the door open slightly ajar, but I find it very hard to believe that Jeremy Fowler said that.
He did. Yeah, he put it in his ESPN article.
Yeah, I disagree with him. Unless he said it, unless he phrased it like that.
His job could be in jeopardy if the Eagles lose in the first round of the playoffs, per Jeremy Fowler, ESPN. So he's not saying he's going to get fired. He's saying it could be in jeopardy. It's not really reporting anything.
Yeah, I mean, that's just what I said. Well, if he loses 40-3, yeah, technically, and then you can spike the football. But yeah, that's very unlikely. Very unlikely.
Let's keep rolling here, John. We got a bunch of super chats coming in. Appreciate the great people of JAKIB Nation today for all the support.
Here we go.
Brian Pumper says Tanner Manning drops 344 and 4 tutties. Jalen better watch his back because it's Tanner time.
Yeah.
I don't think he's doing that with Jahan Dotson.
Yeah. It might be tough.
Eagle fans are still very protective of Jahan Dotson, by the way. I put up a tweet like a little bit ago. It was just like, man, I wish we still had Romney's kids. And they just attacked me. They're like, oh my God, we don't throw to Jahan. You can't say that. I'm like, dude, who gives a fuck? The guy's done nothing. We sent a third-round pick for this guy. Why are you so adamant on protecting him? He stinks. We had no AJ for 3 games. We had no Devontae for multiple games. The guy has done nothing in Philly. Nothing. He stinks, John.
Well, I don't know if he stinks, but
he stinks here in Philly.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about the third for whatever reason they can't get the third receiver involved. Yeah, I don't know why, but I mean, you're talking about it. I don't think he stinks. I think he caught I don't know how many he caught like 50 balls in Washington. I mean, why? That's a bad team at the time. It's not. Remember, that's not Washington now.
Yeah.
And he caught 50 balls. Why can't he do any? I blame that more on the team. I do. And they just don't. And it's been multiple bodies. And you see it the other way with Olamide Zaccheaus going to Washington this year. And he's making plays. He's not great, but he's making plays. And gets an opportunity and he makes plays here
Olamide
and
made
there.
some plays for the Eagles too. He had a big. I remember the big.
He had the one
Yeah.
touchdown, but I mean, overall, they didn't get him involved. They didn't get Julio involved. They didn't get Quez involved. And people go back to when Quez was the wide receiver 2. They had to get him involved, but when he was
but I'm analyzing it from an Eagles perspective, not just solely that Jahan. I think Jahan.
Well, I think you should look more at the.
I'm analyzing the whole move though. They sent a third for a wide receiver 3, and he does nothing. So the whole move of sending it, trading for him, replacing Olamide with him, whatever you did to get to this point, it was a shitty move. It was a shitty freaking move.
Well, then
It doesn't matter. It's inconsequential because we have 2 better players.
Blame Howie. You know what? One or the other. Howie has a different job than Nick and Kellen and everybody. He's trying to get the team better. In theory, on paper, it made some sense. And let's be honest. I didn't want to go down this route, but it's late, so that'll limit the people killing me. Let's be honest. It's the fucking quarterback. He doesn't get people involved.
Yeah, he doesn't.
It's not Kellen. It's not Nick. It's not Shane Steichen. It's not anybody else you want to blame. He doesn't get other people involved. And a fucking Tanner Manning McKee, as Brian Pumper said, or Kenny Pickett, you'd see more, the ball. I'm not saying they'd be as effective, but you'd see more movement around to other guys. So if you want to blame Howie, blame Howie. This is an NFL receiver, never lived up to his, billing as a first-round pick. He got overdrafted. He got overdrafted at the time. People were wondering, you're taking this guy 16 or whatever he was.
Yeah.
He got a little bit overdrafted, but he was going to be a first-round pick, late first-round pick. He's got some talent. So I'm not going to sit here and say he stinks. They don't get third receivers involved. That's why you want Dallas Goedert back on the field. If you want my honest opinion, it takes a long time to earn Jalen Hurts' trust. And 3 guys got it. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert.
I don't think that's part of his problem. Just let the thing fly, dude. If the guy's open, if the coverage is right, if the defense is in the right, if you get the right read, fucking throw the ball. I don't give a shit who it is.
Well,
throw
I
the damn
agree.
ball.
That's what you want, but that's not what you have. So I'm dealing with what you have, not what you want.
I hear you. Anthony Wilson checks in. Thank you, Anthony, for the $10, brother. He said, I said that yesterday to Sills, John. He said he's doing all that talking, but if Lane, Saquon, Jordan, AJ, or anybody got hurt trying to get that record, he would clown Nick all offseason.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, everybody would. I mean, everybody would. Everybody's saying that today. Everybody would.
Cilia will clown somebody for a lot of things. I've never heard him clown anybody over an injury or anything.
I'm not blaming Cilia. I'm blaming.
No, I know you're not. I'm telling Anthony what
I'm saying. Everybody who says you should go for the record, if they suffered a significant injury, it doesn't even have to be injuries plural, a significant injury to a major contributor that contributed to them losing in the playoffs, Nick Sirianni would get a ton of shit. That's not controversial at all. That's reality. That's just the way it works. But one thing I've learned about hypocrites is they don't care that they're hypocrites. So it doesn't matter pointing it out.
That's true.
I say it all the time.
Dank Bird Gang checks in. He says, if number of games don't matter, he can break it in round 1. Well, no, regular season's over, Dank. Abe says, got a feeling some starters didn't want to play and some did. Landon and Mailata made the decision, hence what Lane said to media and what the mic'd up video showed. Yeah, it did show the offensive lineman on the sideline. It certainly seemed like Landon and Mailata wanted to go and get it.
Yeah, I think everybody wanted it. And they're football players. They want to play.
Lane was toting the company line though, Johnny Mac, this week.
I don't know if Lane wanted to play, but the disconnect of there's no, people are overstating the that human beings can have different opinions because that's where we are in society. You either agree with my opinion or you're a piece of shit is the way most of society is right now. In this case, it's like this bunch of guys who get along, and Lane's probably got a little bit more experience and understands it a little bit more than Landon, who would run through a brick wall at any point. You might, you don't even have to have a record, and Landon's going to say, yeah, let's go out and play. And meanwhile, he's been fighting through leg stuff. Sometimes you got to save people from themselves. Talk about a tough guy. That's Landon Dickerson. Now, he could be feeling like shit. He's still going to go out there and play. Sometimes
I love Landon Dickerson.
Sometimes you got to save guys from themselves.
Yeah, that's true. Jeff Bone says, the Bonehead says, it takes almost 3 to 6 months for a fractured forearm to heal. Goedert came back in 4 weeks to compete. That ain't human.
He's made of glass, I'm told. Yeah, he's not a tough guy. Speaking of tough,
Bonehead's with you. He likes Goedert. Josh Herman checks in. Xander, if you had an employee who couldn't perform because he was sick all the time, you'd fire him. Time to move on from Dallas. Well, I don't have that. I got two guys who show up even when he got a cold, even when he's sick. Yeah. Johnny Mac's here to deliver a football Friday for Birds 365.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, that's kind of the mentality I'm talking about, comparing a sprained knee to a cold. You sprain your knee, you sprain your knee. You can say, hey, play through it. We're not going to want to see that, my friend. Sprain your knee, you sprain your knee. Anybody who sprained their knee, I unfortunately have been in that category.
Yeah.
You ain't playing professional football through a sprained knee. But,
F Body Guy says, if J-Mac isn't an Eagles fan, who is his team? This question comes up often, John.
Yeah.
I love asking this.
I don't know why it's hard for people to understand. I don't root for anybody. I root for people. Like there's a bunch of guys on the Eagles I like, and I root to have good things to happen to them because you cover people.
Yeah, and they're good people, and you build a relationship with them, and that's how life works.
Yeah,
I get that.
So I root for people, but yeah, I don't root for teams. I mean, what if you're in this industry, and I've been doing this for too long, there's a lot of people, I say this all the time. There's a lot of people that think they want to cover the Eagles in sports and have asked for, how do you do it? How do you get into it? You got to go, journalism in college, but, and I always say, don't, for two reasons. You got to learn to do the job the right way. So don't cover a team you like, number one. And B, you shouldn't even want to, because if you cover a team you like, you're not going to like that team afterwards because you're going to see a bunch of shit. So yeah, that's my advice. But as far as which team I root for in the NFL, no team. People like to think they have me figured out, but I always tell you I have a file in my email of hate mail. I always keep my hate mail because
you've been accused of 31 teams, right?
Yeah.
Who's the last one?
I think it's not 31. It's 28 or 29. It's very high.
We're close. We're close.
Yeah, I'm very close. So, the most is the NFC North teams because I covered the NFC North. So it's hilarious because Vikings fans are convinced I love the Packers.
See, Abe says it's the Vikings for J-Mac. He's making claims.
See, Vikings fans. Now that stems from I was a big Fran Tarkenton fan when I was young, so that's what that stems from. But I covered the NFC, so Packers fans are convinced I love the Vikings, And Vikings fans are convinced I love the Packers. Now people are convinced I love the Lions because the Lions are so good, and I always talk about how good the Lions are. Now everybody knows I don't like the Bears because I shit on the Bears, but I shit on the Bears because it's just an abomination.
Bad
of an
organization. Objectively, yeah, it's a bad organization.
So, but the NFC North is hilarious because I have so many emails that from Packers fans that think I like the Vikings and from Vikings fans that think I love the Packers. Because when Brett Favre was playing, I was covering the Vikings when Brett Favre was playing for the Packers. And I just had unbelievable. I mean, Brett Favre was fucking awesome.
Yeah, he was.
And Vikings fans would lose their mind. Yeah. So I think it's hilarious.
Good stuff there. Appreciate the question. JH says Saquon's career arc is starting to resemble Priest Holmes, average running back until he got to KC, and then he had 3 amazing years. And JH, you stripped him of an opportunity to. I think if he won the rushing record, he would have been an instant first ballot Hall of Famer. Without it, I think it's going to be a different conversation. Might be a second ballot, might be a third ballot. We'll see.
Well, I think it's a Hall of Fame player. So,
Hall of Fame player. He doesn't have a Hall of Fame resume right now. Not even close, John. He's got like 7,000 career rushing yards. He's very
no. You got to do it. You got to reach certain benchmarks. But
Yeah.
so much of his reputation is a lot of it is involved with that. Not always, but players have so much respect for him. He's in that category. I always say that when NFL players are in awe of you, you're on a different level. They're in awe of Saquon, Randy Moss, Michael Vick, who isn't a Hall of Famer for different reasons. But players like that, Aaron Donald is one of those. They are just, when your peers are in awe of you, carries a lot of weight.
Yeah, that's true. You're right about that. Tyler Braswell text him $5. Go Birds! Thank you, brother, for contributing to the super chat goal with the Go Birds. I appreciate that very much. Brian Pumper says it's been Jalen Hurts. He plays like he has a permanent eye occluder from the optometrist installed. He can't see, can't read, and can't throw. Holy shit, Pumper.
Oh, Brian Pumper. Yeah,
Brian Pumper. That's too far. He said, Dirty D says 95% of NFL fans wouldn't play the game if they stubbed their big toe.
Oh, yeah. That's 100%. Yeah. Maybe higher. You might be lowballing that number.
Yeah, it might be. Mesmerized checks in. He says, enough record talk. Let's have some fun. How do you two see the playoffs playing out, given the assumption of seeding at this point?
Yeah, I don't like the way. I'd rather play Washington if I'm the Eagles than Green Bay, but I think they'd beat either team. So
me too. I think they win. I think we win round one.
But Green Bay's more dangerous, no question.
If I was a betting man, John, which I am not, I do not sports bet. I never sports bet at all. But if you sports bet, go to betus.com.pa. I would bet on the Chiefs. Eagles fans.
I'm still. I picked Detroit before the season. I'm still on Detroit. I think they're the best team. I think their offense is so good. I mean, they're going to give up some points, but I don't think anybody's going to slow them down.
Yeah, we'll see. Brian Pumper says, let's be real. Jalen Hurts made the decision for Saquon not to play during the Commandos game. His inability to slide cooked Barkley's chances.
Now we're blaming Jalen. By the way, Jalen's a big part of why Saquon is at the position he is.
Yeah, but last week didn't help that. I'll tell you.
I'll say this, because a lot of people criticize me for criticizing Jalen because they want to protect Jalen at all costs, and Jalen doesn't need protection. He's very, thick-skinned, and Jalen doesn't have a problem with me, and vice versa. He doesn't get the credit he deserves for the player he is because he's a unique player, and I say it all the time, but nobody hears that. And they want a certain style of quarterback. And he's not that certain style. Once you accept that, you can realize this guy's pretty freaking good. It's just Like Saquon Barkley, one of the things, and it was Josina, I'll say it. It was Josina Anderson said Saquon Barkley's earned the rights to go after this record. He didn't earn shit. He earned the right along with Jalen Hurts and Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata and Landon Dickerson and Cam Jurgens and Mekhi Becton. As long as you frame it in that direction. Saquon's not doing. You saw Saquon in New York for 6 years. He's not doing it without those guys. Now, that doesn't mean you've seen the Eagles as well with good running backs, but not great running backs. Miles Sanders and DeAndre Swift. And Saquon has taken them to another level as well. So I'm not trying to dismiss Saquon's part in it as well. But everybody is dismissing Jalen Hurts in that offensive line. And I guarantee you right now, when I do my regular season award column, I'll tell you right now, MVP of the Philadelphia Eagles is not Saquon Barkley.
Offensive line.
Offensive line.
I agree. 2 more chats we got to here. Chris Scott says, we lost AJ and Blankenship in week 18 last year. Howie probably said, not again. Everyone's sitting. Good. So we decided to play scared, Chris. We'll see how it works. We'll see how it goes, Chris. Josh Herman says, if Mahomes isn't in the MVP discussion with 15 wins, then Burrow's record shouldn't matter. That dude is playing some effing football, Josh.
Well,
it's
it's one of those things where there becomes a tire, and now that I have a vote for MVP, I got to pick a top 5, and I haven't done it yet, but I know I'm not picking Patrick Mahomes, and part of it is, at some point there becomes, and LeBron James was like this when I was voting for NBA MVP. It's like, all right, well, he could be the MVP every fucking year. And it gets boring, and maybe should be MVP in a prime of his career every year. And maybe it should be Patrick Mahomes every year, but it's not how it works. And who's having the best season?
Far with it, though. I think a player that good deserves to get some of those accolades. I don't care if you're freaking biased against it or you don't want, or it's boring. I don't care. It's the point.
Well, I mean, it is about, the individual year, and he hasn't had his best year.
But it's like Andy Reid. Andy Reid's never won Coach of the Year with the Chiefs. That's insane.
Never.
That's insane, John.
He never even in the conversation because he's expected to win.
I mean, we got guys like Brian Dable who have tell the story of the NFL properly.
Kevin
not have Andy Reid as a
Kevin
Coach of the Year
Stefanski. Well, you have to understand each award. You have to and that's why I try to explain to people.
And that's all bullshit.
Saquon's not going to be MVP. It's a quarterback award. Coach of the Year is for guys who overachieve, not guys with consistent success. It just is what it is. And that's why I don't get upset by it. And I say it's not that big of a deal. These are the reasons I say this stuff. You have to understand what it is. And what it isn't is best Philadelphia Eagle. For any of these awards. So you also have to understand it's a league-wide thing. But yeah, Coach of the Year is for the guy who overachieves. It's going to be Kevin O'Connell this year.
Yeah.
Minnesota,
I think is actually a good pick this year. I think
Minnesota, and I'm going to vote for Kevin O'Connell. But if you want to be honest, you're right. It should be Andy Reid. But he's not even in the conversation because he's expected to do it.
Yeah, it's bullshit. Abe says any records Barkley can break in the playoffs.
Yeah, Terrell Davis's all-time NFL rushing record that nobody knows about.
Edward L checks in. He says, love the show. So is Andy Reid an idiot scared by not playing starters this week? Mahomes and Travis are going.
You have to ask Zander. I'm not calling him idiot. He called. I don't call the Eagles scared. I think they're doing a common sense thing.
The Chiefs are not in the same position as the Eagles. And if you're going to convince yourself that they are, Edward L., then that's your problem. They are not in the same position. Remember, the same people who said this about Andy Reid were mad that he played Patrick Mahomes in the preseason. So it's not a black and white conversation at all.
No.
The Eagles' philosophy is to rest players. People like the Lions, people like Andy, that's not their philosophy. The Chiefs have accomplished everything this year, and now they're taking
the Eagles' philosophy is when there's nothing to play for to rest players. They're locked in. That's why the Chiefs are they're locked in. The Eagles are locked into the 2 seed. They can't go up, they can't go down. Last year they weren't locked in, and they played. Their philosophy is not resting players. Their philosophy is resting players if they're locked in, which I agree with. And I would kill them if they didn't rest players before and after, whether it worked out or not, because I don't think it's a good way to do it. If there's something to play for, you play. To me, it's pretty simple. There's nothing to play for.
How about the NFL rushing record,
right,
John?
Let me reemphasize. If there's something team oriented to play for, you play. If there's something not team oriented, then no, you don't.
I know.
Play.
I've heard of it. I've heard it enough. All right, everybody, we're way over time now. John, what's your prediction for this damn game that was so hard to talk about?
I think the Giants will win the game. Eagles aren't going to play anybody.
I'm going Eagles. I'm going Tanner Brady, baby.
Come on, Birds. It's not subterfuge. They're not going to play any meaningful key contributors. Some guys will have to play, obviously, as I mentioned. But I don't know, 23-17 Giants. Wow.
23-17. Johnny Mac's picking the Giants. I'm picking the Birds. I'm picking the Tanner attack. I'm picking Jahan Dotson to prove me wrong.
You just said he stunk.
Well, I know. That's why I say he's going to prove me wrong. He's going to get out there, and Tanner McBrady's going to make him look like a freaking stud.
I hope that happens, actually, because I want to see the overhype on Tanner McKay if he plays well.
Sick. That would be awesome.
I want to see it. I
Give
want to
us some
see
great
it.
stuff to talk about on the post-game show. I'd love to do that. So let's see what happens this weekend. I'm going to pick 27-17, baby. 27-17. Give me the Birds winning this game over and going to 14-3 on the year. It'll be a hell of a season, John. It'll be a hell of a season. You're underestimating how much Nick cares about that winning percentage that everybody's been tooting about him, John. He knows it's there. He doesn't want to lose this game.
Yeah, well, they're going to try to win, but yeah, I don't think they're going to play enough players to win, but they're going to try to win.
We'll see. We will see what they do. Good stuff, everybody. Appreciate everybody in the chat, by the way, for all the super chats today, all the likes, all the support. You guys are tremendous. Yeah, even when you don't agree or you get mad at us, we still love you and you still support us. So I can't thank you guys enough. That's what football talk is, though, John, isn't it? What, you want us to come up here and have
the best thing you said
every day?
The best thing you said today is you didn't say it this way, but I'll say it that we ain't curing cancer. You know, it's not meaningful at in the big scale of life. It is football. But yeah, and I always say enjoy the journey. You don't always have a 13-14 win team. And they got a chance, and that's all you want. You want to go in the playoffs with a chance, and they're going to be in the playoffs with a chance. And that's a successful season.
We will see how it plays out. Johnny Mac, great show, brother. We will talk to you on the much anticipated pregame show for Week 18's Tanner McKee Backup Bowl. First in New York versus the putrid.
Might even get to see some Ian Book.
The horrifying.
Notre Dame. That might be a signal that Notre Dame goes all the way. Ian Book is back.
Oh, right. He was a little, yeah, that's right. He was
the all-time winningest quarterback at Notre Dame.
Is he? Is that right?
That is correct.
Wow. Good little tidbit of info on the way out the door for Ian Book. We'll see if he gets out there. John, good show, brother. Be safe today on your travels down to NovaCare. Anything worth telling the people before we go that's happening today at NovaCare?
Nope. Necessary evil. They're going to practice today. Nick talks before practice. I'm sure there'll be some more.
They'll probably get a couple people to talk to you guys to tote the company line a couple more times. Make sure everybody's not too mad at the Eagles. You know how they got to control the narrative.
Yeah, you got to beat the dead horse. Maybe we'll get some info on why they're handling Jalen Hurts to why they're handling Jalen Hurts. But
I'm going to bet you don't get that info.
Well,
maybe you will off the record, but not on the record.
Yeah. Well, that's what I meant, but we'll see.
All right, Johnny Mac. Good show, brother. Thank you all for being here today. Hit that like button on your way out. John, great stuff, man. Talk to you on Sunday for the pregame show.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.